Bonjour les étudiants. Today, since you're seeing this video, that means that either I am out having my baby or I've already had the baby and I'm not in class today because of recovery. So anyways, in this video, you're going to have everything you need for la semaine 17. So that way you know what we need to know as far as grammar and all of that fun stuff goes. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, first off, let's go ahead and review something that we talked about last semester, which is les pronoms d'objet direct. Now, these are direct objects, d'objet direct, direct objects, and direct objects are always right after the verb. So in a sentence, for example, if we have I have a cat is the direct object because that's what I have. En français, c'est j'ai une chatte. Now, if I want to replace chatte with a pronoun, which we do often in English, and if you don't do it, it kind of starts sounding awkward because it'd be, I have a cat. I love my cat. He's a good cat. Have you seen my cat? My cat is orange, you know, like all that stuff. And then it's like, could you please use he for crying out loud? So when we change it en français, if you remember, in English you would say, I love him. And in French, since un chat is masculine, it becomes le. Don't worry, we'll go back over these in just a moment. So, unlike English, obviously we keep the order the same. I love him. In French, they're going to take le pronom d'objet direct and put it right here in between the subject and the conjugated verb. So, je l'aime. I, ici, love him. And since, of course, we have this word starts with a vowel and this one ends with an E, they have absolutely no interest in any of that happening. And so they make sure that they do the apostrophe so that way it's je l'aime instead of je l'aime, which just sounds awful. Now, since it's been literally weeks since we've talked about this, let's go over what all of the pronoms d'objet direct are. So, on this side, we have it anglais, and on this side, we have it en français. So, as you can see, me is me, you, te, he/it, le. Remember, this is any situation where it's masculine. She or it, especially in a feminine situation, is la, us, nous, you, the formal and plural version, vous, and them is les. So these are the words that we replace any of these words basically with whenever they are direct objects. Now, as a general rule, in the present and passé composé, we'll talk about imparfait later, the pronoun always comes before the verb. So, je t'aime or je t'aime aimer. So, you see, it always goes right here, right before the conjugated verb, right after the subject. And this one will make more sense later, but we're not going to talk about it quite yet. Now, something very important to remember is that the gender and number must always agree when it comes to le, la, and les. Obviously, with me, te, it's kind of easy to figure out if there's only one person that you're talking about or if you're talking about like 3 people or a bunch of people and they're with you. So anyways, so par exemple, est-ce que Pierre lisait le journal? So did Pierre read the journal? Now, le journal, remember, if we make this into a pronoun, the first thing that we need to do is, of course, decide is it feminine or masculine. Now, the nice thing is it's super easy to figure out because we have le sitting right here, which tells us that it is, of course, masculine. Cool thing about that, since that's already there, we know it's going to be masculine. We know that the pronoun is going to be le, which means we just pop le in ici, right here. The same goes for the next one. Vois-tu ma mère? Have you seen my mom? Ma mère, of course, is feminine. Yeah, if you guessed it, then you're right. If you guessed it's masculine, then No, no, my mom, no, moms are feminine. I'm sorry. Anyways, this, because it's she, becomes la. So it'd be oui, je la vois. See how that works? All right. Est-ce que vous postez ces lettres? So did you send the letters? Les lettres? Now, with this one, obviously it is plural. We can tell from the S's. So that means we don't have to worry about if it's feminine or masculin. Instead, we get to just make it into le and stick it right here. Oui, je les poste. Yes, I sent them. Et voilà. All right, so here's a practice one. Voyez-vous mon chat? Have you seen my cat? Right now, for me, the answer is no. Mr. Purple sitting in the middle of the floor, and he is nowhere to be seen. He's probably up in the baby's crib again. Anyways, so mon chat. Feminine, masculine, obviously masculine. So since it's masculine, it's going to be le, him, or he. So in here, we would put oui, je le vois. Does that jar your memory? If not, obviously I'm not here to talk to you live, so email me and we can talk about it. Now, as mentioned before, if the verbs that follows me, te, or le, or la, starts with a vowel sound, we're going to use the M apostrophe, T apostrophe, or L apostrophe. Why? Because you know them French. They don't like that kind of stuff going on. So, if I'm talking about mon chat, because even though sometimes he acts like he doesn't, he loves me, I would say il m'aime. So notice, me, he loves me, il m'aime. Or if you want to say I love you to a friend or a parent, a sibling, you could say je t'aime. Je, so I, love you. And notice that we take that E out, add that apostrophe. Or if you want to say I love him or her, you'd be I love, and then him or her. So je l'aime. Now it's time to embark into something new. So we already have le pronom d'objet direct, so let's talk about indirect objects. So an object indirect. So a good example of this is in this sentence. Je donne un livre à mon ami. So un livre in this sentence is a direct object. How do we know? It is right next to the verb. And for those of you who are not really into grammar, you're about to get amazing at English and French grammar all at one time. So direct objects are directly next to the verb. Easiest way to remember. Indirect objects have something that separates it from the verb. Now, in this case, mon ami is our indirect object. And you'll notice that it's not un livre, actually, that's separating it. It's this little guy right here. Ah. It's a preposition. So I give a book to my friend. A is basically to. So to my friend makes mon ami, my friend, the indirect object. Because notice there's something in between, if that makes sense. Another way to figure out if you have an indirect object going on is can it answer the question to whom or for whom? So I gave a book. To who? My friend. See how that works? It's a good way to test it. Now, en français, le préposition à, the one that we just had in that sentence, is always used to introduce un objet direct. Talk about easy. Here in English, sometimes it could be other things too. But en français, it's always going to be à. So, par exemple, elle a écrit une lettre à son grand-père. So, where's our indirect, on object indirect? It's going to be after the a, which means it's going to be son grand-père. So she wrote a letter to her grandfather. Voilà. So there it is, right there. All right. So, nous montrons l'article au journaliste. So we read, montrons. Yeah, the article about the journalists, or by the journalists. Notice that we have a here. Now remember, a doesn't always stay a. Just a quick refresher. A, la stays the same. If you have a plus le, it's going to become o, like that, au. And if you have a plus le, it's going to become the a, u, x, aux, just like in this. So, journaliste is going to be our object direct because something related to a is right here. Or something that happens frequently for me, je téléphone à ma mère. So I call my mom. In English, you don't really have it as, it's actually a direct object instead of an indirect object. But remember, when you say téléphone à, that means that you were calling to somebody, because that's how they say it en français. So à, ici, means that ma mère is going to be our object direct. All right, now just like with l'objet direct, there are les pronoms for les objects indirect. Nice thing, almost all of them are the same. Woohoo! The only problem, yeah, there's two that are going to be different. I'm sorry, but the good news is that it's just two, and actually one of the words is super familiar and the other one encapsulates all three words, so it makes it a little bit easier. So in English, you'd say me, so come to me, or something like that. Things I say to my cat. It would be me, or if there's a vowel, the M with the apostrophe, so still me. You in formal singular is te. Now, this is where things get a little different. Him, her, and it all translate into one word, lui. Yes, lui, just like the name. Now, with lui, you may have seen this in a sentence before. If not, you're bound to notice it now, and it means that it's an indirect object. Pretty cool, right? All right. Now, of course, the nice thing, nous et vous, they both stay the same. So us and the you, which is the formal and or plural. And then the only other one that changes is them. Them becomes le. Now, remember back when we talked about possessives, like their grandfather, it was like le grand-père. Well, it's the same word. So you just use it in a slightly different context and it totally works here, which is completely awesome. So you can't beat that. Now, what gets a little bit interesting, and it's something that we're going to continue to talk about as we go along, is that the placement, where you put it physically in the sentence, is the exact same place as le pronom d'objet indirect. So this means that you could have a whole lot going on here. So if you were to say something like, I showed him my book. I showed him my book. Why? Because it's a really awesome book. Obviously, him in French is going to be indirect object, because in French normally it would be I showed my book to him or to whoever. That's literally how the sentence would flow out. But whenever we make it into a pronoun like this, it's not going to sit in the same place in the sentence. So this is why it's very important to pay attention to what the structure looks like en français. So in this case, it's going to be je lui, so I, him, basically, a montré, which is I showed, mon livre. So, je lui ai montré mon livre. I showed him my book. Notice that my book is still the direct object, and lui is actually our indirect object. There you go. Pretty crazy stuff, right? All right. Let's hop on to the next one. So, elle m'a demandé l'adresse. So she asked me for the address. In English, this is how we would put it together when we add a pronoun. In French, however, let's say that I'm trying to think of a name of somebody that's not in the class. How about Belle? Okay, we're going with Belle. You know, Beauty and the Beast, Belle. Okay, so Belle asked me for the address. Or, I'm sorry, whoever, asked, yeah, you can't really replace me, can you? Because it's going to always be a pronoun. So in French, just like we mentioned, they're going to pop it in the same place that the pronouns normally go. So, elle m'a demandé l'adresse. So she asked me for the address. I know, really interesting stuff, huh? All right, don't worry, it will make more sense as we go along. This is just a quick introduction. All right, so another one. Valérie nous a envoyé une carte postale. So Valerie sent us a postcard. Now, if you were to say it en anglais or even en français, you could also, if you're replacing the new, if we're going back to like what the sentence would have originally been, it could be Valerie sent a postcard to Monty and me. Monty and I, or Monty and me, becomes nous because it's us. And then once it becomes us, we're going to stick it right here between the subject and the conjugated verb. So Valerie nous a envoyé une carte postale. All right. Is it making sense now? Starting to see the pattern? Okay. Last one. I borrowed the car from them. Now in this case, we actually have from them sitting in the part of the sentence that you would kind of expect it to, unlike the other ones, because, you know, French and English are a little bit different. So, in this case, them isn't going to be them. We're going to make sure that we use our new word, le. So, je le, because remember it's going to go between subject, conjugated verb, je le ai imputé la voiture. So I borrowed the car from them. In English, from them's in the end. In French, it's sitting right here in the middle. So like I said, I know this is a hard concept, but with some practice, you'll have it down in no time. And don't worry, this is the introduction, so we will talk about this plenty more times. Now, a couple other little quick notes. If you have a negative sentence, you're going to place it immediately before the conjugated verb. So, elle ne lui a pas téléphoné. So she never called him, or she never called her, or if you want to get really weird, she never called it. I don't know what it is, but yeah. Normally in the sentence it would be she never called Monsieur Purple. It takes forever to write with a mouse. So Monsieur Purple, Monsieur Purple would become lui because it's him. So she never called him. I don't know why she'd call Mr. Purple a stuffed toy on the telephone, but whatever. Now, if it's future proche, we're going to place our pronom directly before the infinitive. So we're going to change it up a little bit if it's negative and future proche. Like I said, not a big deal, but just so you know, if you ever see it, je ne vais pas le écrire. So she never wrote them, or she's not going to write to them. Not going to write to them. We don't know why, but I'm not going to write to them. All right, so one last thing. I know I'm throwing a lot at you at one time. Now this one's kind of mind-blowing because you're about to learn a word that you've known since the very beginning, like week 2 of French 1. And that word is E. So you guys remember il y a? Il y a une chaise, il y a une chatte, il y a du carton. You know, there is or there are. Well, E means there. Yeah, the location. Really cool, right? All right, so here's the cool thing about it. You can take any location in a sentence and replace it with E. So for example, est-ce que Fabienne est déjà allée au parc Montsouris? So has Fabienne ever been to the parc Montsouris? So au parc Montsouris, because it's a place, we can replace it with E. And yes, the Y says long E sound. Why? Je ne sais pas, parce que c'est le français. So if we were like, no, she hadn't been there, but you know what? I heard she's going there on Saturday. Then you can make a sentence like this. Non, mais, which is of course but, elle y va samedi. No, but she is going there Saturday. Now, in English, we may not necessarily add the there in. En français, they're always going to do it, okay? So keep that in mind. So another example, vont-elles chez Fabienne ce weekend? So are they, obviously a bunch of girls, going to Fabienne's this weekend? Now chez Fabienne, obviously is chez is the house of. So are they going to Fabienne's house this weekend? This whole phrase can be replaced with one letter, E. So if the girls are going there this weekend, I don't know what we're doing, but you know, if the girls are going there, then you could say oui, elles y vont. Yes, they are going. Now, as you can see in both sentences, we would probably imply there en anglais. However, you're always going to mention it en français. Why? Because that's how they structure their sentences. So make sure that you do it. Does that make sense? You guys seeing how that works? Pretty cool, right? Now, there's another one that I want to show you, and that is en. And it can mean some or any. So, par exemple, est-ce qu'il y a des musées intéressants en Paris? Are there any museums that are, or interesting museums in Paris? Now, like, obviously the answer is yes. Duh. I haven't even been to Paris and I know that. But more importantly, des musées intéressants, because it's some in the sentence, if we were to reply, it'd be like, yeah, there are some, we would put en ici, and so we'd pop it into our sentence. So it'd be oui, il y en a. Yeah, there are some there. There you go. That's how it works. All right, next sentence. Avez-vous acheté des souvenirs? So have you bought any souvenirs, or have you bought souvenirs? So des souvenirs, obviously, we're going to replace it with what, guys? Yep, that's right. En. So now these people, I don't know what is going on, but they haven't bought any. So, you know, I'm going to judge them a little bit right now. So it'd be, non, nous n'en avons pas acheté. No, we haven't bought any. Can't believe it. But notice, en, right here. And just like all the other ones that we've talked about before, subject, conjugated verb. And since we got a negative, we let the negative go first because otherwise it gets really confusing. All right. en can also be used to replace nouns modified by a number or quantity expression. So, just like we would do in English, if you were like, vous avez beaucoup de thé? Do you have a lot of tea? I mean, these are important questions in life, guys. You could do beaucoup de thé, and just like in English, it'd be like, do you have a lot of tea? Yeah, we have a lot. Some, any, you know. In English, it may not necessarily transfer over precisely, but still, this could be replaced with en, and so it becomes oui, j'en ai beaucoup. Yeah, we have a lot. And notice, of course, we don't have the word some or any in the English version of the sentence, but it's still, yeah, it's an implied thing in the sentence, just like the e thing, but you know, that's just how it goes sometimes. All right, so one more note. Using e et en ensemble, together. This is going to happen often, especially with notre ami, our dear friend, Ilya. And actually, you noticed it on the last slide. So, a quick example. Combien de livres est-ce qu'il y a? So, combien de livres est-ce qu'il y a? How many books are there? Obviously, we've got Ilya here. We have combien de livres. De livres is going to become what word? Yeah, you guessed it. Oh, you knew it was going to happen. And what you could do is you put e first and en second. So, il y en a 100. There are 100. We got a lot of books here. Now, an easy way to remember which one comes first, and this is kind of funny, is think of a donkey and the sound that a donkey makes. E-on, E-on. You see how it works? So that's an easy way to remember. So whenever you're trying to remember, E-on, E's first, en second. So there you go. That's a quick introduction to le pronom d'objet indirect and le pronom I et en. So, like I said, if you have any questions, if you need any help, email me and I will get back to you ASAP. And you guys have a wonderful week.